Hello, this is Chris and Rick Talk Guitars. That's Chris over there.
Hello.
Hi, Chris. I'm Rick. We heard from a listener, which is awesome.
Sweet.
We love to hear from them because, we don't know if they're out there or not.
Right. I love that anyone
ether.
in the world is listening.
Me too. I hope it's not a robot or a bot.
But I know my mom listens, so
does
that's
she?
good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, this guy's name is Rick Jackson. Hi, Rick. Thanks for getting hold of us. He had a good idea for a topic for one of our shows, so we're going to do it. Basically, I'm going to read partially from his correspondence. It says, if you haven't done it yet, how about a show on Artist Series equipment? Maybe like, why do we need it? Which, I've kind of wondered before too. I have mixed feelings about it. Chris has feelings about it.
We touched upon it once, but we didn't drill down.
Yeah.
So
we're going to drill down into this topic today. Artist Series equipment. Why?
Why?
I mean,
Let's start with your thoughts, Rick.
Okay.
Because I'm still gathering mine.
Okay. You're still raking them up off the ground? Okay.
Exactly.
I have mixed emotions about Artist Series guitars, or equipment, I should say, yeah. On the one hand, I can see maybe it's inspiring to some person who maybe loves a certain artist and says, oh, they've released this person's version of a Stratocaster or whatever it is, and I want to get it because I love that artist. And then that's cool because that makes that person want to get a guitar and play it, which I think is totally cool.
Right.
I will say, just the curmudgeon in me, kind of like, it used to seem like you if you were an artist, you had to be around for a while or have accomplished some stuff in your career before somebody would approach you and go, you've been playing for 25 years, you've had 6 gold albums, we'd love to do your version of our guitar, what do you think? Cool. And maybe it's because that artist has done some mods of their own on the guitar, or just plays a certain way, or is known for playing that guitar, right? So they'll do their own version of the guitar. And I think, and it seems like nowadays, somebody can play for a year or a couple years and they get their own Artist Series guitar. Which again, I think the flip side of that is, hey, if a fan out there is jazzed by that, and why not? And if it's a good guitar, if it's a good piece of equipment, right? That's the thing for me.
Right.
I find a lot, like with the guitars in general, like an Artist Series, they'll release one, like for Gibson, for instance. Like this guy plays a Gibson Les Paul. I'm going to release my Artist Series, and it's an Epiphone made in Korea. Like, so it's like, why?
China, right.
I think I'd have more respect for it if they just said, yeah, I play a Gibson Les Paul, and my signature model is a Gibson Les Paul. That,
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe the thought is, well, we want to do it cheaper so that the entry. I don't know. Anyway,
give anybody access to it. I get that. And one thing that I have to remember all the time is guitar has evolved to the point of where it's not just for guitars who like work on the guitar for a living and play, or are really into it. It's you have different levels of guitar enthusiasts. Take a model like, let's say the what's that dude? The Andy Summers Telecaster, which is like a custom shop. I don't know if it's master built.
Right,
I've seen one. I've played one. It's a good guitar.
Yeah. But
who does that appeal to? I mean, that appeals to somebody who's kind of wealthy, likes guitar, and whoever you say that you don't like it the same way I like it.
That's true.
And they buy it and they have it as a conversation piece, maybe more than a guitar. It's a good guitar, so I mean, you could play it, but it's kind of priced out of the range of a lot of people who like to play guitars and would actually take it and use it like weekly. So there's that. But I do well to remember that it's not just my view on what an artist's guitar should be or who should play what.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So I'm with you on thinking that if an artist comes up with a model and they want to make it affordable, that's super great, and just make it a cool version of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, take the Made in Mexico Stratocaster and Jimmy Vaughn series.
Yeah.
When they approached him to do his a guitar, he's like, well, I want to do one that's affordable. And he did. Yeah. It's like a quality Stratocaster at cheaper than a regular Stratocaster, even this regular standard. So I think a point that Rick made in his message was, he said something about Hendrix. He's like, back in the day, Hendrix just went into a store and bought an off-the-shelf Stratocaster and changed the course of musical history.
Exactly.
And there's you do well not to forget that too. I mean, off-the-shelf stuff is still extremely useful. So, I mean, I think what I gather from the old Artist Series is kind of a little bit of marketing and a little bit of, making collectible things for people to collect. So they buy more than one guitar over their lives.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. I mean, the collectible thing, I think, is important. It's like we collect all kinds of stuff, baseball cards, all kinds of stuff. Guitars is just another thing, another object that you can collect. Yeah. Not only vintage ones or stuff, but yeah, artist series. I hear that. But yeah, I guess just I keep coming back to the point. I just wish, because I just get more cynical when I see like them offering a signature series to anybody now, right? That's popular or whatever. But I guess it's just, it's just economics. They can, if they can sell a bunch of people on that guitar because they love that artist.
Right.
So.
Would you ever not play an artist series because of the artist? I hear people grapple with that all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, I really want that, but I'm not a fan of that artist.
No,
I mean, it's a cool instrument, but I don't like the idea of it being associated with an artist.
I think, like you said, if it's a good instrument, it doesn't matter. It's like if it's a good instrument and I could play it and I like the way it looks and stuff, I'd play it. Yeah, I don't think that would be off-putting to me. I'd play a Hello Kitty Stratocaster.
Oh man, yeah, a Jonas Brothers Melody Maker.
There you go.
I'd play one
now
of those.
You're
it's
talking.
a melody maker
Yeah, of
at
course.
heart.
There you go.
You can't go wrong.
Exactly. Well, and again, you have a really cool Junior that is a
that's
signature model.
the dude from Green Day, Billy Joe,
and it's a badass guitar.
love
Yeah, there's a case to be made that you can get a really good guitar.
Yeah, and just that in that particular instance, I will say that Billy Joe Armstrong was zero factor in my purchase of that guitar, either like or dislike. It had nothing to do with it. What I looked at for that instrument was the straight off the shelf Juniors of the era had slightly different wood, slightly different, construction.
Yeah.
And then there was the custom shop, which was what I really would, if I had my choice, I'd take a custom shop.
Oh, yeah.
But the Billy Joe Armstrong was right between those two, and it had enough of the vintage elements that it was close enough to a vintage guitar. That's what I bought. I bought because it was like a vintage Junior, and I've been happy with it. It's still, people think that's a vintage instrument. It sounds like one, so I'm happy. What other famous artist series guitars are there that people tend to freak out? Wasn't there just a Jimmy Page Telecaster?
Yeah.
I think I have a friend who had one of those, and that looked cool because they made an affordable version of that too, right?
Yeah.
There was like the really expensive one and the affordable ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. And but you saying off the rack kind of made me think about too. It's like, yes, like there was a time when that's just what you played because there was no custom shop. There weren't a lot of like ways to like mod your guitar. People were trying to do it. Like even Dick Dale back in the old days wanted more beef out of his amps and stuff like that. So they tried. But over time, like artists did start to mod their own gear, right? So it's like so-and-so wasn't playing a stock Strat or Les Paul. He or she had done some other stuff, like had the pickups wound hot or had new pickups put in or had a whatever or some switch put in there or something like that. So I think, that mindset of saying, well, these other artists just played off the rack guitars, to some extent that's true, but over time, even popular artists started modding their gear. So, having a signature model of that guitar does make sense to me, right? Because it's like, oh, this is the way that person played modded the guitar and played it, and I love that artist, so I want that guitar,
And like the Hendrix like signature guitars, there's actually something physical about those instruments that do help with the tone. It's strung backwards, and it's like this stuff is in a different place. And Hendrix really used that as part of his style, so I can see where that would be desirable. It's like I want to have that element, and there's other guitar players who've done that, flipped it over, flipped a lefty over or something just to get that kind of physical layout that gave him a little bit of an edge. Yeah. But people like Hendrix or any of these other guitar players, they're not lack of a signature model is never going to stop these people. They would do that on whatever. They were just driven. You mentioned amplifiers, and recently, and I can't remember the artist's name. He's like a kind of a rootsy country guitar player, and he just had I think it was a Brown Princeton. I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm getting at with this is I saw the first thing whenever a new amp comes out or a vintage amp, I go look for gut shots. I want to see how they're made.
Yeah.
And this Princeton was so close to the way the old ones were. A lot of them, they're like, they've engineered the circuit to sound like that, and it's like modern engineering of that circuit. Yeah. It becomes, like the deluxe, the Blackface Deluxe reissue, but on the inside, it's nothing like it. You know what I mean? It's completely different. This is so close to an old vintage circuit board and everything in there. I'm like, that was great.
That's awesome
that they're doing that. I'd love to see more of that. And I wish I could think of the guy's name. I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
But he's some rootsy rocker country guy, and we'll figure out who it is. But
I do love that. I love it when they go the extra mile to like make something that's cool. And I guess you got to straddle the affordability, like you were saying before. I mean, I think the idea of, like I was talking about earlier, the Epiphone versus the Gibson is they want to make it affordable to some kid or somebody that's not a lawyer that can afford this, like the Andy Summers guitar, which I totally dig. I get it. But it just kind of bums me out that, they're probably getting an instrument. I don't know. I haven't played a lot of those, I must say, so I can't really speak. But it seems to me like they're made out of a lot cheaper materials and stuff like that. But maybe nowadays too, the technology is such that you get the Epiphone version of Zakk Wylde's, Target Bullseye Les Paul. Maybe it's a good guitar. I don't know.
Well, they're totally fine guitars, and for the price, I'm sure they're good. But when you start getting fussy about them, the finish is different, the woods are different and whatnot, and it's just like those little details that make it a Gibson are kind of missing. But and as entry to someone to have a Zakk Wylde guitar, it's great. Yeah. So, and
the one thing I will say too is if you're going to have a signature model, you better play the goddamn thing.
A lot of
because
people do
if
that.
you don't, then that's bullshit. It's like and so that's the thing I look for too. It's like, look, you have a signature model that's awesome. You better play that guitar.
Or like the Paul Westerberg first act guitar. He had a signature one of those.
Really? Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That's great. He's like, that's the perfect Paul Westerberg move. Let's take this cheap. And I think he was like even in like a Target or something or some department store, and he saw one of those, and he just got thinking around the idea. I want to have a signature one of these. So he got a plaid first act signature guitar.
I love it. Well, I can dig that because he's such a smart ass and such But I just think about. I have seen cool videos where artists talk about their signature model and they do play them and they take them on tour, and I love that because it's like, okay, cool, I love that because you are the real deal. It's like you're not going to just put your name on something and then sell it to a bunch of people and not ever give it a second thought,
Yeah, Roseanne Cash got a signature Martin, and I was reading
that's cool.
Her talking about that, and that was super cool. She's like, Martin has been a guitar like that me and my dad, and it's been in our life forever, and she was just so honored to have that guitar, and it's a really sweet, like subtle, Martin, no good. So that I love hearing stories about those people who, because some people like they make something for them, they're like, nah, this isn't it. Go back to the drawing board,
exactly.
And they'll work on it for a while.
Again, speaking earlier to what I was talking about, it's the kind of that recognition, and the fact that an artist like that is so moved by it. I think that's cool because again, it's like maybe you didn't get a Grammy or maybe you didn't, but I think it's just another way for an artist to get recognition, right? And I think it's a cool way too, actually, right? If it's legitimate and if it's done with the good intentions, because it's like these instruments. First of all, when you're starting out, it's hard to get enough money to get the instrument you want, right? Most of the time,
right?
And then when you do get those instruments, you really cherish those instruments, man, because it's like, God, I saved up and bought this cool Martin or whatever it was, and you love them, you love these things, and so for for the company that makes those guitars to approach you and go, hey, we want to make your guitar, it's like that's cool. I mean, that is cool. So the why. I think we've come up with some good answers about why Artist Series guitars. It's not such a bad thing, but
do you need them? No.
Do you need them? No, you don't need them. No, they're not a necessity. But I think for the various reasons we cited so far, I think we're making a good case for like, why not? Why not have an Artist Series guitar?
And I've said this before. It's like, the argument that, why do you play this? The audience can't tell the difference is a bad, a bad way to look at it, because the audience, sure, I'm not up here playing this guitar so the audience can tell the difference. It's like, how does this feel in my hands?
Exactly.
I mean, how does this make me play? There's a big difference between, I'm a huge fan of cheap guitars, but, even then I have standards. I mean, and that varies for people. I belong to a forum or not a forum, but a Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
It's Awesome Cheap Guitars, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see what, where everybody draws the line.
Right.
Because, all these people are really, it's their thing and they're excited about it. Oh, that's great. I was like, I wouldn't play that if you paid me. And it's like, and I'm not judging you because you
I like cheap
like
guitars
that,
too,
and
yeah.
that's great. But it's like, I do have, a cutoff. It's
Yeah.
really hard for me anymore to find a guitar that I would like under $500.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just there's some exceptions, and I love the exceptions. Some of the reissued Dan Electros. The Mexican Fenders are still really good deals.
Yeah.
And, there are a lot of them out there. That's what you think about this. We're talking about artist series guitars, and then you think about all the one-off guitars, and there are so many
Oh my God.
guitars
It's
that
insane.
you have choices of.
So many.
It's
Independent builders now. Yeah. Well, I like what you said earlier about, the audience doesn't know the difference about your playing, but you as the artist do. And whatever you can do as an artist to feel good about your playing when you're performing for other people, that's what they do pick up on. They pick up on your attitude, subtle or not, and how you're transmitting that attitude through your playing.
Right.
And that's so important because you and I both know we've been at gigs where we've had a shitty guitar or the guitar's not, our gear's acting up or some other thing is affecting our performance, and people can tell. I can tell. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel so great when I play that, I'm channeling it to everybody in the room, and they can see it, and they're tapping their toe. You know what I mean? So
Right,
yeah, I think
right.
that's a really important part. And so if an artist series guitar, if you're saving up all your money to get this artist series guitar, and that's your deal, that's cool, and that's your instrument that makes you happy and makes you other people happy. Yeah.
I agree. The guitar will pull something out of you. So if you have a guitar that just feels right and you feel really good about for whatever reason, maybe you've modded it or whatever, it's going to pull something out different than it is on a guitar that someone can't tell the difference out front.
Yeah.
So that's always a weak argument or a way to judge things by. I mean, it's about you and your guitar and what the guitar is able to pull out of you, and each guitar will do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about really expensive guitars and really cheap guitars, and we all have different things that we kind of are attracted to. So, and in modern guitar America, there's so many
You've got
choices.
And maybe you like handles on your guitars too.
Yeah,
so.
how else are you going to carry it? All right, before we wrap this up, can you think of any of the most cockamamie artist series things that you've seen?
Yeah, and the disclaimer is this is just our 2 cents.
Well, that's what it is. We're talking shit about artist guitars.
It may be somebody else loves this thing to do, but yeah, the Steve Vai guitars with the handle are kind of funny to me.
And are those are his pretty much his signature, right? I mean, he developed that.
Those are his signature guitars.
It's not called Steve Vai. It's the Gem.
It's the Gem. You're right.
But he was influential in getting that thing made, and it took a long time to get it made. But
and his 7-string stuff.
Those don't speak to me, but I know people that they do speak to.
Oh yeah.
And depending on where you're coming from, I 7 strings I just can't fathom. If it's a 7-stringer, but I mean I love Ibanez guitars.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
That's the era where I kind of parted ways with Ibanez, the Super Strat era.
Yeah.
But I can't really think of anything. I'm trying to think of something that I just saw and kind of rolled my eyes. I mean, the huge one for everybody is the John Mayer PRS Strat, because it just seems like the most pointless thing ever. But somebody
digs it, and appreciates like his thought process
it's
about
like that ugly ass headstock.
Exactly.
Let's put that on a Stratocaster.
Not only that, but he flipped it too. It's like, let's flip
I just
that
thought, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm the same way. When I watched that whole video too, where he was explaining, because he was getting a bunch of pushback when that thing released, and so he had to put together a video kind of explaining his thought process and stuff. And it's thoughtful, but it's like, I had a big question mark still. It's like, well, why not either make just a Fender Strat or a PRS? This weird hybrid thing to me is bizarre. Yeah.
Right. And then there's always the argument about when people start talking about artist series, whether they like them, whether they're not, they're like, someone will come out and say, well, the Les Paul is an artist. And it is, but that gets argued over because it'll be Les Paul and it'll be like the / Les Paul. It's like 2 artists. And that's always pretty interesting because in a way it is Les Paul, but it became such an iconic, like standardized instrument that you can have a signature on top of that. But it's just funny that people like, I'll refuse to play a signature guitar.
Except
and
this
someone
Les
says,
Paul.
you have a Les Paul. And they're like, that doesn't count. But
That's a great point, though, because that's an artist.
it is.
That's an
it just
artist
depends
series
on- it's-
guitar.
Yeah, but it's really it's one of those pointless arguments that are amusing.
I know,
because
but it's-
people watch people go at it over that.
But it's kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down, though, because it's like even like Gibson came out with the SG body style, and
Right.
it mortified him. That's ugly, and so he wouldn't put his name on that. So they had to make it the SG.
Right.
So I think that's kind of an interesting twist on this whole thing. Is what you were talking about is that this artist series guitar became a model, like just a standard model.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a Les Paul. Well, a standard model with different variations of
Right.
the model.
Junior, the special.
I've got
Deluxe.
a Les Paul / Who else can we throw on that heat?
Oh, one thing
Jimmy
I don't think
Page.
we really talked about in the signature series is there's like the straight up signatures, and then there's the really detailed. I think the
yeah.
the Andy Summers one was one there where they take like every scratch
Yes.
and burn and they kind of recreate that. I watch videos about that stuff because that's pretty cool.
It
That
is.
gets you into the whole relic can of worms
Yes.
where people. That's another thing that people go off for hours on is like you know guitars that are made to look old by beating on them before
Yeah.
you sell them.
Drag it
And
behind your
that's-
truck.
and that's always amusing, but we won't go down that rabbit hole for now. But
Well, no, but only to say that it is interesting when I geek out about that stuff too, where an artist has given his or her guitar to a company to dissect every
Right.
ding and then the artist gets it back and they're like, damn, they got every ding. I remember my belt buckle, all this crap. So that kind of I get a kick out of that when I see an artist get a guitar back from a company and they've painstakingly put every mark that's on that guitar just from normal wear. And the artist is like, damn, I can't tell the difference. Like, it's like, I play it on whatever they say, but
that's really
I
cool
dig
if you think
that.
about it, that you have people that do that. I mean, and that's like the custom shop people that
Yep.
go to that level.
Yep.
And and then if you have enough money, you can own that thing. So
Exactly. If you
I
got 10
definitely
grand,
see
you
the
can-
collectability of it. But whether or not you need one to make music, no. I mean, you should find a guitar that just that pulls stuff out of you that
Exactly.
you like to spend time with.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's $6,000 or $400.
Yeah.
I mean, just you can get it and bond with it, and there's no shortage of artists who made great, world-changing music off the shelf, standard stuff.
And then also that's kind of a tribute to that artist for doing that, for coming up with an artist series guitar for that off the rack. You know what I mean? Like, again, another way to. I kind of dig that whole mental model of just accolades to this artist for doing what they did, and it makes them feel good.
Right. And before we end this, I'm going to ask you if you could have any artist series guitar that you're aware that exists right now, which one would you get?
I think I'd probably get the Jimmy Page Les Paul.
That's right.
58 or 59. The one he bought from Joe Walsh or whatever. Because to me, that's just such an iconic. That's imprinted in my brain. It's just he wore it so low,
right,
with that spaghetti strap, and it's just such a cool guitar. And it's not an ostentatious burst. You know what I mean? You and I both kind of like, not flame tops and all that. We're pretty run of the mill, but that guitar for some reason, I don't know, stuck out with me, and I think that's one I would want to have as a signature. How about you?
Well, that's probably not very wise from a investment standpoint, but I would like the Wayne Kramer Stratocaster.
Oh, dude!
That I've played a couple of them, and then those are very affordable.
Well?
They are, and it's just cool. And I love the MC5.
Those too. The red, white, and blue.
And I'm not even the hugest Stratocaster fan, but that's one that I think in the Joe Strummer Telecaster are the ones that come up. I really love the Joan Jett Melody Maker.
Yeah.
Too. That's a really super cool guitar. See, I need to get some of these.
You do? No, but those are great guitars. And yeah, the Wayne Kramer Strat is like, that's emboldened in my mind too. Like,
I've played two of them in the flesh, and they're cool. And they're as cool as they look.
Nice. Well, that's a good exercise. So anybody that's listening, send us whatever signature guitar you would want. If there was one you could have or a couple you could have.
And that's funny because the Wayne Kramer Stratus, a lot of these, like my Junior, it's just the only thing that makes you can tell that it's a signature is if you turn it over and look at the back of the headscot.
Yeah.
The Wayne Kramer, you can tell from 400 miles away that
exactly.
it's a signature.
Exactly.
But I just like it. It's it feels good. It's kind of like got that late 60s, 70s kind of like.
What year
vibe.
did he play? Was it the 60s or was it the 70s?
I think it was the early 70s.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I'll check. It could be late 60s,
that,
but it is
yeah.
a big headstock.
I dig that guitar, yeah.
I do too, and that's going to be on my radar.
I love
Christmas
it.
is coming.
Yeah, and your birthday too. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll think about it. All right, well, cool. Hey, Rick, I hope we covered the topic and did you proud.
I
thanks.
hope so too.
Yeah, thanks
Let
for
us know if we didn't.
That
And
suggestion
thanks.
was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for giving us suggestions.
Really
We love
appreciate
good
it.
ideas.
Yep. There might be something in it for you. We'll let you know. Anyway, thanks for listening again. As always, social media, digital crap out there. We're working on the website. We're going to have some updates here, either late this year or early next year.
Yeah.
We'll let you know
or
about
2020.
Yeah. We're digging
sometime.
it. Yeah. Anyway, until next time, adios.
Goodbye.